It's safe to say that food is fairly important. You need it to survive and thrive as a human. However, food is also a really important part of culture in, well, any place really. Except Britain, apparently. I mean, look at the shit that they eat. I mean, seriously, look at this. What is this? How is this enjoyable to eat? Sorry, off topic. Yeah, you can tell a lot about a place by its food. Especially street food or food that's available to basically anyone. It's molded by lots of things like local ingredients, things that are important to the culture, basically anything. So it's a really good way to get an impression of any kind of country. That's why I decided on Brazil. I think that it's got some really interesting food in general, and lots of its food has cultural significance. Yeah, street food is for the general public, and Brazil has a lot of ingredients available, especially because lots of ingredients are imported, and lots of ingredients are fairly local as well. I mean, you don't really see a lot of the food that they eat there in other places around the world. Lots of this is due to its geography and its wide range of climates over the entire country. I mean, you have the Amazon River, you have the jungle around it, you have some really high mountains, and there are all sorts of animals that provide lots of really good meat, and there's fish. This wealth of ingredients and climates has led to some pretty amazing food. And starting off, we have some plant-based food in the acai bowl, which is the frozen pulp of an acai berry served with oats and some other berries. It can basically only grow in Brazil and other places around that latitude in the dense jungle, and it comes from a kind of palm tree, which is fairly surprising considering I thought it grew on a bush. Moving into the recipe and the actual ingredients you need to make an acai bowl, it's fairly simple. They've become a lot more colorful since their original debut as essentially just pulp, honey, and banana, but they still have some fairly interesting flavors like oats, banana, shredded granola, almonds, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, basically anything. If it's fruit that can grow in that area, it's probably an acai bowl. But moving on from all this absolutely disgusting healthy food, we have some really greasy and classic street food with fried yucca chips, or cassava chips. They're basically just potato chips made with the yucca root, and are made about how you would expect. Chopped up, fried, you put salt on them. Basically just chips. Seems like it's kind of universal to make whatever tuber you have available into a chip, which is interesting. But, yeah, looks delicious. That's pretty much all I can say. The yucca plant is generally harvested en masse. A side note, this is yucca with one C. Yucca with two C's is some weird kind of tree, whereas yucca with one C is a tuber, which made research for this really, really confusing. The yucca/cassava plant is actually one of the leading feed plants in the world, with over 160 million tons produced per year and shipped out. It's mainly grown in West Africa, the adjoining Congo Basin, and tropical South America, though cassava chips are mainly a South American staple. Moving on to our next food, we have fried cod. A staple from basically any place that can actually catch fish or cod. I figured this recipe would be interesting because it's so common. I can actually compare the different seasonings and different techniques that are used over different places that catch fish regularly. I mean, over here in the States, I generally don't see much actual seasoning being put into the breading, and I see most of the flavor in the sauce. But most of the recipes that I'm seeing that are made in Brazil are lots of flavor actually in the breading, with garlic and shallots and lots and lots and lots of oil, which doesn't differ that much from the States when it comes to oil. Generally, the thing that I see done differently in Brazilian fried cod is there's mashed potatoes in the batter that they use to fry around the cod, which actually sounds delicious, but I've never seen over here, so I'm assuming it's part of what makes their fried cod a staple over there and what makes it different from other parts of the world. I'm assuming that this food became popular because of high fishing and good access to the sea, combined with a really easy way to cook fish. Comparing recipes from here in the States and recipes down in Brazil, there are a couple key differences, mainly in actual spices instead of just paprika. For example, there's the usual stuff in both, like egg and flour, but it's fairly minimalist for the States. There's about cayenne pepper and salt generally, whereas in Brazil there's cilantro, hot sauce, potato, and yeah, I don't know, that just sounds more appetizing to me. As for our final recipe, this is a bit of an interesting one, as it's a food that's migrated quite a bit, coming all the way from Lebanon. It's traditionally made with lamb, and I believe it's pronounced kibbeh. Well, not specifically Lebanon, it's from the Middle East generally. It came over in the early 1900s, and traditionally made with lamb. It's kind of croquette, but it's currently made with beef in Brazil because that's just an easier meat to come by. And it's a fairly common dish in street food. It's generally made with wheat, beef broth, olive oil, onion, garlic, cinnamon and nutmeg, which is a bit of an interesting one, parsley, mint, just a lot of things that aren't traditionally Brazilian per se, but it's a Brazilian spin on a traditionally Middle Eastern dish, which I thought would be interesting to cover. In conclusion, unless this assignment was done terribly, terribly wrong, this should have given you a bit of an impression of Brazilian culture and being a bit of a melting pot of other common foods and also local traditional foods. We all know that the British still have the most bland food, with beans on toast being a staple, but that's not important right now. Thank you for listening. This is shorter than it was supposed to be, but this is about as much information as I could stretch out over this period of time without it being boring as hell. And because I don't know how to do endings, enjoy this elevator music.